I see it a little bit in the movie, but you saw it firsthand, and maybe you have other experiences. What the great upside to forgiveness is? Because I know I've had my own personal experiences where I've had friends tell me all the time, you really need to forgive. You need to learn to forgive your father. You need to learn to forgive your brother, and that I'll feel better afterwards. How will I feel better? What will be the change in me?
Well, you know what?
I need something. I need you to dangle something.
I need a carrot. I need to hold it out in front of you.
That's right. Well, so I know what the stick is, but I need the carrot.
So Dean in the film, he talks about he grew up for a lot of years with bitterness in his heart, right? Anger, and he masked it with being joyful and happy and trying to be like the clown around. That was the way he was hiding it. But inside, he was torn apart. This was something he had not dealt with. He was being held captive to this thing. And so even if, whether it's a brother or a father, that's when you go to see them at Christmas, or if you don't go to see them at Christmas, or if you go to see them because of someone's birthday or you don't, there's still that thing in the room, the elephant in the room, And if you deal with that matter, I think that's, part of the issue. If you deal with that matter, that allows this bond to kind of happen again, this closeness, to come, hey, let's come together, let's get rid of this thing here. And then it's, I just keep using the word freeing, there's just liberty there. There's liberty when you're not bound by this issue, If the issue wasn't there, the relationship would be different.
Now, am I crazy? Because I sort of understand that, but I sort of feel like in order, and I know it probably should start with me being proactive, but I sort of feel like if they would just give me the acknowledgement and the apology up front, then maybe I could get to the forgiveness a little easier.
I'm glad you said that, because Dean, when he says he first called Bob, right? He says, Dean, or Bob, this is Dean. I want you to know I forgive you, but that's not even the reason I'm calling. I want to tell you about Jesus, right? This is what he says, right? And he says, also there, you don't have to say you're sorry to me or apologize or anything else. And Dean says he was glad that he said that, because for a long time, Bob didn't. He didn't say, hey, I'm so sorry about this, for a while. And if that was the thing that he was waiting for in order for him to let go, then he would still be in a similar state, Dean wanted to be free. I think Dean calls it the gift you give yourself. He wanted to be free. And so now, by saying that I'm going to have to wait until you apologize to me, it's like I'm giving you power over me. I'm allowing you to keep me captive. But if I just go ahead and say, regardless if you're sorry or not, I forgive you, I'm going to love you anyways, then there's no more power over me. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. It sounds fantastic. I'm not sure I'm there. I just would really like the sorry.
No problem.
Well, it seems like, even with Bob, it's sad hearing that didn't immediately come out of him, because that seems like sort of a very significant step to me. And I know that there's no Hallmark card for that. Sorry I killed your mom, but I feel like there's got to be some way of acknowledging that. I'm just stuck in my little secular hell.
No. I think, as I said before in the beginning, I think it's natural just to feel that way. It's natural to deal with, especially something that's hard like that. Come on, there's very few things that might be harder, than dealing with the loss of a life, right? Especially someone that close. But the issue still is that, as you said, what's it going to do for me? That's what initially addressed Dean to move forward to that, is that he was recognizing in his life that this is tearing me up. This is some things you kind of forget about, as you said, but someone could die that you still hate, and they're dead and gone, and when that name comes up, you still hate that joker.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Isn't that the truth?
Yes, indeed.
So, that person, they don't have the ability to come and say they're sorry to you anymore, right? They're gone.
Right.
So who's benefiting? Or who's not benefiting from it? It simply just lies with the person now.
Okay, so I don't have a seance or go to John Edwards and look for the
try to bring them up. Yeah. What do you do? And so I think in that kind of scenario, now you're really starting to look at, all right, what's this going to do for me? And on the flip side, where Bob's side, as you said, him asking for forgiveness. That's an area that we generally don't address too much in our society. You know, it's about, all right, you did a harm or a crime to me, right? But what about the person, what about the perpetrator? What about the offender?
Right.
And that's something a little different in this film that Dean says that God told him that this is your opportunity to be able to show him love and to help him forgive himself.
Right.
And that's different, right? We know we're not worried about the guy who did the crime. We're not worried about, you know, we hope you rot in hell, right? That's, you know,
that's one of the payoffs of the Bible,
yeah,
isn't
great.
it? Some justice.
Feel guilty, you know, that's right, you do suck. You know, that's, but there's something that happened in the film that Dean says that he realized that, hey man, God loves this guy. God doesn't hate him, and he doesn't want me to hate him either. And so that's some of the movement towards the love side of things.
Well, it's interesting because it brings up this notion of restorative justice, which is absolutely fascinating to me. And it's a very tiny movement, but an important one, of getting victims to meet with the perpetrators of the crime. Yeah. How do you feel about that process?
Actually, I feel great. When I started to read and learn a little bit about it, and I don't know if you know this either, with in my life, almost a decade ago, I had gotten in a fight with one of my roommates after college and everything, and ended up getting in trouble, although no one got hurt in the fight or anything. Had to do some time.
Wow.
Yeah, had to do some time, just because of, essentially, they wanted to hold, you know, me to go to trial or plead bargain. I said, I'm not plea bargaining, and I went to trial and I lost.
Right.
And so, I come from a couple different perspectives on this, not only being a minister, working on this movie, but being on the side as like the perpetrator. You know, it was, although it was a fight, you know, I was the one who got in trouble. I love the process. I mean, I know there's different ways in which this theory is put together, but just the meeting of the minds to be able to bring two people together. I saw a quick little interview of a test case where they did that, and the offender, he for the first time he burglarized someone and, you know, hit him in the head with like a frying pan, gave him a gash or something. He for the first time realized that, you know, this was a real person, and he really began to humanize, you know, the effect that he had on the other person's life. And through that face-to-face, that's one of the big things with that process, is the face-to-face meeting and the conversation, and then now allow their transformation. A transformation in the person who was assaulted, the transformation in the person who was the perpetrator, and the transformation in the community. You know, now that this person is a effective member in the community, they are not just, you know, someone who's going to continue going back and going back. And from what I've read, it's even lowered the recidivism rate. You know, people returning back into prison once they've had some of these encounters, and especially a huge deterrent with the youth. Right. You know, instead of you know, sending them off to the pokey, you know, when they're 15, 16 years old, giving them some understanding of sort of what really took place, you know, in your break, in your breach in this person's space, you know, what took place, and that's caused them, I guess, you know, according to the studies, to deter from some of those same actions.
Right. Restorative justice, those studies generally prove that the recidivism rates go down tremendously as a result. If people wanted to know more about forgiveness, what books or movies would you recommend?
Besides Live to Forgive.
Live to Forgive, right here, by Skip Moody.
By Skip Moody. Besides that, I know the Bible. That's where Dean pulled, you know, the majority of his forgiveness tactics or purposes, or the reason why, or allowing God to really change his life. And the other thing is, Dean actually is writing a book on the forgiveness process, which we hope to come out sometime in the summer of 2011. So look for that. You know, look for that from a first-hand experience of someone who, you know, lost their mother, and the process of, you know, how to get over that.
Wow. And if we wanted to hear you in action, and not just see your film?
If you want to hear me in action, you can probably find that on livetoforgivemovie.com, you know, or on the Facebook. We kind of have all of our little events, that whether we're showing the film or speaking engagements, and our next film, After the Ghost, which we plan to shoot in Seattle.
After the Ghost.
After the Ghost, yeah.
Okay. which is just the next step.
Actually, it's a narrative. It's about a man searching after the Holy Spirit. It's a supernatural drama.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
A supernatural drama.
Supernatural drama. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So look for that. AfterTheGhost.com.
Okay. I won't forgive you unless you send me a premier pass for that thing.
All right.
Some things I would recommend for folks. There's a wonderful movie, actually by a Seattle filmmaker called Take with Minnie Driver and Jeremy Renner before he did The Hurt Locker, which is a great movie, particularly for the last 20 minutes. And it too deals with forgiveness and restorative justice in a sense, and it is quite moving. And then there's a book, the Little Book of Restorative Justice, which gives people a great way to start looking at that whole process of meeting and healing if you are a victim. So I'd recommend those things. But do you have a final thought for folks like me
Final thought for folks
who desperately need to forgive but just don't have the tools?
I would say that from Dean's experience and my experience, that if you really want to forgive and use that method, reach out to God, say, God, if you're there, and this is possible, then show me how to do it. And that's the beginning of the process, just giving it to Him, and He'll bring you through the steps.
Okay. Well, that actually sounds easier than regrouting my bathroom, so I may go with, the forgiveness route and see what I can do.
Good.
Thank you so much,
Hey, thanks
Skip.
for having
You're
me. I appreciate
fantastic.
it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. God
Thank
bless
you, guys. Forgive us for going to break.